It is said that most firstborn daughters face pressures and at times play the role of a third parent to their younger siblings. Today we get testimonies as well as experts' take on how most firstborn daughters handle the responsibilities of being role models, caretakers, and house helpers even from a very young age. We explore this and also see some support that are available for this group. Hello, I am Auriane Itangishaka. Welcome. And as usual, I'm with my co-hosts, Simegnish and Anasthasie Tudieshe. Ladies, I already know that you guys are firstborn daughters. I want to know, what is one or two things that shaped your personalities because of that very position in the family, firstborn female child?
We were talking about this earlier, and I remember you saying you were being sat down at 4 years old. I don't think I was sat down like that and being told you are firstborn, and but I was repeatedly told that I have to behave in a certain way because I have to set an example for my sister. I have to read so that she can develop reading. I have to talk or walk in a certain way because I have to set an example. So when you grow up with that kind of caution, you always watch your action or how it impacts others, even as an adult.
Anasthasie, what about you? What did you experience?
Well, two quick stories. At 4 years old, we're in Gabon, sitting in the living room, and my father comes to me and looks at me straight in the eye and tells me, "You're the firstborn. If you go off track, your siblings go off track."
At 4?
At 4 years old. And wow. I still remember it vividly.
Oh my God.
Cue to 25 years later, I am the host of a famous radio show in Paris. And we decide in the show to prank my sister, one of my little sisters. And we make her believe that she's in trouble and that's a policeman calling her. The first name that comes to her mind, they ask her, "Who are you going to call?" They say, "Call my sister. You know, she's a radio show host, and she will help me out." So both my siblings and I got the memo.
Wow, so she called you instead of your parents?
Both my parents were living in France at that moment, and
she could have called them.
Oh, absolutely. She didn't. And she has other bigger sisters. She called me.
Wow. Do you think that that could have been the case if he was a firstborn son?
I do not believe so.
You don't believe so?
No.
We'll talk about that more.
I hope so.
Well, that's a load, because I really want to know the difference between a firstborn daughter and a firstborn son, the difference. But I think there is a difference for sure.
Well, let's go to the continent and look at this deeply. Firstborn daughters in Africa face multiple challenges, particularly in patriarchal societies. From tending for their own families, they face the added responsibility of taking care of their siblings and even their parents. Let's go to Gaborone, Botswana, where reporter Makondushi Dube gives us a report on this.
At 5 a.m., Lebohang Mpemetse, a chef at a local school, is up preparing for a long day ahead. She only gets home around 7 p.m. This exhausting routine is the price Mpemetse has to pay for being the firstborn daughter in a family of 4.
Typically, my day starts at 5 a.m. in the morning. I wake up, prepare my daughter for school. 6:15, I have to be at work. 4 o'clock. That's when I knock off at work.
The 24-year-old admits being the eldest comes with extra responsibilities.
Being a female firstborn, it's one of the hardest things ever, because you are developing into, being a teenager, starting into being a mother. Helping your siblings throughout, your father, even the mother of the house. Because we know that nowadays parents, especially mothers, wouldn't wake up in the morning and do all the house chores. Rather, the firstborn, the daughter mostly, is the one that wakes up in the morning to do everything for the family.
Mpemetse says she sees a difference in the way the society treats a boy child compared to girls in Africa.
It goes with the way that a boy child is taught. Some boys can stand up to go, do the chores and all that. But girls, it's just strictly, that you have to do it for your family.
She says being the eldest daughter means the entire household relies on your diligence, and this can be emotionally draining.
You would think for your siblings, at the same time you think for your family. And being a teenager and having, the responsibilities to step in for your siblings, it's draining in such a way that you didn't have your teenage life. Rather, you are stepping into a new life that you are being a mother.
Kingdom Kibaitse is a trauma counselor and frequently helps women who face emotional strain due to added life pressures.
As a trauma counselor, I try to go for the healing. I try to target the soul, to go for the emotional pressure, the pressure of the thoughts, because once that burden is lifted, they can apply themselves more.
Pamela Dube is a gender activist and also a firstborn daughter.
It's quite challenging to be a female firstborn, like I was saying myself. I am, and I was expected to, even though I was brought up by a modern woman who was, a professional, I was still expected to take care of my siblings. And my brothers will be playing out there until 8 p.m. and nobody bothered, but as a girl, there are certain things you have to be warned. Even your studies can be affected if you're going to be taking care of the house chores when others are just playing.
Dube says while there's a lot on the shoulders of a firstborn daughter, the rigorous socialization at an early stage prepares them for the life ahead.
I found more and more women are very strong and they are able to stand on their own outside today because of the home grooming of sort.
Economist Maria Benito and Garang Genikot, in a 2023 study on firstborn girls and family structure, revealed that having a firstborn daughter in sub-Saharan Africa has a direct impact on marriage patterns, divorce rate and polygamy. Kondisi Dube for VOA News, Gaborone, Botswana.
Awesome. Well, to look closely at the firstborn daughter syndrome, we've invited Ms. Paris Capleton, trainee clinical psychologist at the National Health Service in the United Kingdom. Ms. Capleton, thank you so much for being with Our Voices.
Thank you for having me.
Well, as we get right into it, tell us briefly, what about exactly is this firstborn daughter syndrome exactly?
I think the first thing to say is that it isn't a sort of psychiatric syndrome. So if you opened up a sort of manual where you would find mental health difficulties, you're not going to see it in there. But how I view it is it's more of like it's a role reversal. It's a sort of societal and familial expectation that the eldest daughter, the firstborn daughter, would take on a certain responsibility in the home, usually to provide for the younger siblings, but also for the parents. And sometimes this can look like offering support in two areas. So you usually find sort of the emotional support, and that's sort of being the confidant to the parent, to the younger siblings, offering mediation when family breakdowns happen, but also what they call instrumental support. So this is more of those kind of caregiving duties such as cooking, cleaning, looking after and supporting younger siblings. But also sometimes taking care of finances in the home as well.
We hear sometimes that firstborn daughters feel that they have to constantly, perform their best as role models in order to receive love from others. Is that true? Is that the case for firstborn daughters especially?
Sorry, could you just ask that again, please?
So do firstborn daughters especially, do they have to constantly perform their best and be constantly role models in order to receive love from others? Is that the case?
I would absolutely say so. I think if we just look at children and their sort of function in the family, essentially if a child feels like their mother or their father isn't going to be able to provide them love and care, then essentially it threatens their survival. So for eldest daughters, essentially the family script is, if I'm not able to provide care and support to this family, then ultimately I'm no longer loved. And that family script sort of takes them throughout life. It shows up in friendships, it shows up in relationships intimately. And it really just comes down to the idea that as children, we have basic essential needs and those need to be met. And if our parents are telling us that in order for our needs to be met, We have to be of service. We have to be responsible. We have to provide care and nurture for everyone else. And in a way, almost neglect our own needs. Then that becomes how we've been socialized to live life and how we maneuver through life.
There is so much truth to what you're saying. It's like you're telling the story of my life. Now let's go to the romantic life, whether we are aware of it or not, whether we like it or not. Being a firstborn daughter informs our romantic life. So I would like to know, how does it translate to the men we attract? Some women simply don't want to continue being the caregiver. How can they intentionally avoid that in choosing a partner, asking for a friend?
I think when it pertains to romantic relationships, it's really interesting in how it shows up. I mean, we don't want to kind of generalize and say that all sort of firstborn daughters will have difficult relationships. But the pattern that I would normally see when I work with firstborn daughters and they're looking at romantic relationships is usually they are attracted to men or partners who are emotionally unavailable, but also partners who are unable to meet their needs. And if you think about how sort of firstborn daughters have been socialized and taught, the first thing is that actually a lot of their emotional needs are left unmet. And in fact, they're often giving emotional support to others. And sometimes they're not even aware of their needs. So you might sort of find that they attract people who are unable to take care of their needs. On the other side of that, if we're so used to providing care, we may attract partners who require a lot of care from us, who are dependent on us. And actually, I think about more of the sort of family structures in that, in sort of African and Caribbean households, the woman is often, or the girl child is often given those responsibilities to kind of care and nurture. And we often don't see that with the boys. So often if you are attracting a partner from similar backgrounds as you, you'll often find that they aren't socialized to be able to take care of themselves or provide. So the way in which the family provides for them is directly passed down to their relationships.
Let me shift the relationship to mother-daughter, because I see and I hear that mothers are the ones dumping the work on the oldest daughter. Does that happen in a situation where the daughters subconsciously resent the mother, or do they see it as a, oh, I'm responsible, I'm smart? What do you think?
I think it really depends on the individual. I think the first thing to say is this syndrome is intergenerational. So it really depends on whether the daughter sees this as, this is just something that happens in my family. Because the mother probably had it happen to her, and then the grandmother probably had it happen to her. So for some people, this is just seen as the norm, and actually they can take on those roles as a badge of honor. You know, you often find eldest daughters in positions of leadership. They're very responsible, they're very meticulous and in control of their lives. And actually in that way, it could be really positive. But you also find people who feel that their childhood has completely been robbed of them. Things were not fair. And they had more responsibility than they felt they could manage at that age. And often, you know, people might struggle with mental health difficulties later on down the line, blaming parents for that.
All right. Well, Ms. Paris, that is great insight, and we thank you so much. We appreciate your take on this. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's now time for a short break. When we return, we'll move the conversation forward and hear about some of the available support systems for firstborn daughters. As usual, we ask you to share your thoughts on this topic on our social media platforms at VOA Africa. We are on Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter. Don't forget to use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depend on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world. and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Welcome back. You are tuned into Our Voices. Today we're discussing the lives of African firstborn daughters on the continent and in the diaspora. Let's now hear about some of the support groups available in the UK. Miss Yasin Bojang, the co-founder of Homegirls Unite, a support group that provide multiple tools for firstborn daughters to be at peace with themselves. Miss Bojang, thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let me jump in quickly and ask Ms. Yasin. You provide a podcast, a free 30-minute rant session, a leadership program confession session, and more. Tell us more about the rant session, because I think that this is very interesting. What is that exactly?
Yes. So the rant session is essentially a 30-minute space where the girls that need support can come through and talk about anything they're going or experiencing through the eldest daughter life. One thing we've noticed when we started the eldest daughter support group is that a lot of the girls actually didn't know this was a problem. They thought this experience was unique to them and their families. But then when they started reading more on it and the support we provided, they noticed that it's actually more people going through it. We have this rant session so the girls can come and talk in a safe space where they don't feel judged and with people who understand them. So it has a lot of laughs and a lot of tears as well. But the best part of it is that the girls have that space to let their feelings be validated.
I really think we need such rant session for everything in our lives.
30 minutes is not enough.
That's not even enough, but
short.
yes,
Honestly.
definitely. Well, we will continue this conversation. It's very interesting. But first, let's go to Kenya, where some ladies share their experiences as firstborn daughters. We hear from Elisa Muthoni, a college student, Lynette Akini, a businesswoman, Warren Whitney, a college student, and Monica Muthoni, a businesswoman in Your Voice segment.
Well, being a firstborn, there are certain responsibilities you have, and people look up to you as a role model. So it is not easy. There are some challenges we pass. Some pass through depression, and we have no one to talk to. Some of us, our parents are just like, they expect you to know everything, but we just don't have like a friend to talk to. So it is so hard for people to believe us, or to just, they expect us to do everything right.
Okay, as a firstborn daughter, you know the family relies on you. You are the head of the family, so the family relies on you more. Like, you have to struggle so much so that you can give to the family. The family looks on you, and you have to do it so that the family cannot blame you. Yes, we have a lot of stress, because you know, any situation which comes in the family, you are the head, and you are the one to handle that situation. Whether you have it or you don't have it, the parents will look on you. You are the first person they will reach on. They won't think of anyone else, but you are the first person they will reach on to ask you which solution, which thing, what can we do so that we can help, so that we can do this and this in this our family.
Okay, being a firstborn, there are so many responsibilities. For example, I should be like a ring leader in my family. Those my siblings, they should follow me as a leader. There's also stress, like when the mother and the father, like they're having an argument, you know, like it also affects me badly because I'm the firstborn. Yeah. they should be like leaders to their siblings. Yeah, they should act responsibly. Yeah, knowing that their siblings watch them, what they do. Yeah.
Find my parents up to date. They cannot do anything, even concerning family matters, before they consult me. So they have to consult me first, even before consulting the other siblings. So you find yourself, even when your parents are stressed, you find you are also carrying the same stress yourself, simply because you are the firstborn.
Wow, it looks like all these women, firstborn daughters, they carry a lot on their shoulders, and whether they are capable or not, a lot is expected to them. Can you react to what we just heard from these women?
Yeah, I was smiling the whole way through because this is something that I've personally experienced, and also a lot of the women in our community experience. You don't only have to parent your siblings, you get to a point where you have to parent your parents as well. So it is really stressful, and a lot of elders' daughters need a space where they can forget about their responsibilities, even for an hour.
Yeah, so how do you do that? What other tools do you have to support these women and girls?
Yeah, so the aim of our organization is to empower elders' daughters to be able to stand up and say no, even once. We're so used to saying yes, we've never been taught to say no, and that has a strain on us. We have support groups that we come together and feel safe and validated, and be able to make friends who understand what we're going through without any explanation.
The understanding part is very important. So what is expressed in the clip, Yasin, that we've just seen can be perceived as overwhelming, and it is. You have experienced it, I have experienced it. Overwhelming, at times sad. But if we look at the sunny side of the road, it can also be perceived as a training for life in general and to develop valuable skills. What do you think?
I completely agree. I think the eldest daughter role definitely prepares you for life, and it has its positives. We think there needs to be a moderation and balance between those things. There's studies out there that show that the elders turn out to be the most ambitious, the most successful siblings in their birth orders. So there are things like being leaders, being reliable. All those things are amazing things and skills that we have. And I think if we choose and place them carefully, it can really help us thrive in life.
You know, for me, I feel the syndrome sometimes because I am the only daughter, and I'm in the middle child, but somehow, maybe because of the culture of women just, being very valuable in family, always being consulted, I feel that also pressure of the firstborn daughter because they're always coming to me, asking me things. I have 3 brothers. Now, do you see that as also the same situation, or middle child daughters also are the same kind of syndrome?
Yes, I actually wrote my master's dissertation on this topic, and one of my findings was the eldest daughter role doesn't necessarily only go to the eldest daughter. It can affect all girls in the household depending on the circumstances in the household. So it can affect the only daughter, it can affect the lastborn. Maybe the firstborn decided to reject the role, maybe they left the house, or the household might have parentified all the girls. So the role goes to everyone. So just because we say firstborn doesn't necessarily mean only the firstborn gets impacted. It can also affect other girls in the household.
So I would be able to get some support from you as well. That's good.
Yes, come through. Definitely.
Because I do feel that pressure sometimes. I'm like, go ask her, go ask. I'm like, I'm not the oldest, but I'm the only one.
I'm surprised to hear that you are doing a master's thesis on this specific subject, and I don't think this is something that's often discussed and given attention to as a problem for women specifically. So how did you bring this up into a research subject?
Yes, so I've always been into the gender sector in terms of academics. And when I started Home Girls, and we registered and applying for funding to support the girls, one of the things funders always wanted to see is the rationale and the evidence why this is needed. Unfortunately, there's not much evidence out there. It's coming now, but there wasn't. So my reason for doing this course was to be able to gain more knowledge as a founder, and also to give my community academic validation, to understand that what you're actually experiencing is a real thing, and that no one should invalidate how you feel because they feel like, oh, eldest daughter life, they're always complaining, etc. But I'm really happy that more research is being done around it, and we can see that it's needed.
That's really great. Yasin, thank you so much. That's a really great insight as well, and we really appreciate taking the time to talk with us on this subject.
Thank you for having me.
Now, do you feel like you have a resource?
I feel seen.
Oh, good.
Heard. Understood. Don't you?
Being sat down at 4 years old and given this responsibility.
Yeah, and the pressure throughout the whole life of feeling like
and
you are another
ends.
parent.
It actually never ends.
It never ends.
And it's a feeling that you share whoever you meet with. It infuses your relationships.
Now, a quick question. Do you think that that adds more masculine energy? Because, you know, leadership is for male and all of that kind of, you know, personality traits.
Listen, as you know, I just come from DRC, right? And the nickname people would give me in the streets was the man woman. Does it answer your question?
Wow. But I do understand definitely the pressure, you know, it's really real. It's really a situation where one of the girls was saying like, I feel like I have no friends to talk to because I have to be the parent.
So I didn't have that because I was the eldest of 7, but then I had all the friends I needed at home. And so I could talk about whatever I was going through with my siblings.
Right.
I like that you were friends with your siblings. That's a plus to that.
And you have to continue to do well, Lily. Your sister's watching.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. That's
well, this is our show for today. Thanks to our guests, Mrs. Paris Capleton and Mrs. Yasin Bojang, both from the UK, for their insight. Let's continue the conversation on all our social media platforms. Be sure to watch our voices on the VOA website at voaafrica.com and our YouTube channel, where you can catch up with the latest episode and the world's top news story. Now, on behalf of our co-hosts here and our editorial team and production team here at Voice of America, thank you for watching. Until next time, it's cheers. Thank you so much.